All right, we're going to start this second video. I'm going to leave off, I'm going to start off where I left off, which is in Sergeant Barakella's office, basically getting yelled at. So it gets heated, it gets loud. Lieutenant Donnelly comes into the office and wants to know what's going on. So Sergeant Barakella explains what's going on, I explain what's going on. Lieutenant Donnelly agrees with me and says that it was my call on scene, and that I was there, I did what I needed to do, and I got the job done. So I'm told basically to go cool off. So I go back in the squad room to type up my summary report for the detectives, obviously for the job. So with the statement that I got off of her and everything, I need to type that all up. I need to get that prepared for them. So if they need to get warrants and what. So I go back in the squad room, I start to type up the report, the summary report, my initial report. So Lieutenant Springfield comes in and sits next to me, and he wants to know what's going on and what happened with Sergeant Barakella and this whole thing. So I explained to him, that, look, he wants to write me up for going down there and telling one of his officers to stay outside. And he worked with me in the city, the lieutenant. He's one that recruited me up there. So I told him that, hey, Lieutenant, I did exactly what I was trained to do, just like we were trained to do. It's an active shooter situation. It's a person to person, it's actively shooting and killing people. That's an active shooter. Something we handle all the time in the city on a daily basis. And what you do is you don't hesitate. You go right into either be a project, an apartment building, a storefront, whatever. You go right into the building, period. You need to get in there, you need to stop the threat. So, speed, surprise, violence of action, you need to get in there, move the cover, move the contact. This is the things we were trained to do. So, and I was trained by the best people, so you get in there and you do what you need to do. So I'm explaining to him exactly, why is this guy giving me a hard time? So, again, this stuff happens in cities across the country every day. Active shooters, you had Columbine, and they were supposed to have certain things and certain protocols in place and certain SOPs. This was going on for decades. When I started the job in '92, you had active shooters every day. In the projects all the time, and they have across the city. Across the country in major cities. So, and cops are responding. They're going in there. They're going in with wheel guns. Back in '92, we had wheel guns. We had crappy vests. You run in, you take care of business. You stop the threat. Preservation of life. That's the number one thing, and stop the threat. So. Again, I'm going on a rant, but it bothers me with this whole thing with, you're gonna call me out, and you got people who won't even go to these jobs. Again, like I said before, the suburban policing is just totally different from the city, and I feel that, you have a bunch of really good cops out in the suburbs, you do, but training's not going to do it. You can train people all you want. You can train them. You can teach them close quarter battle drills. You can teach them how to shoot. I could teach a 10-year-old to shoot. I could teach a 10-year-old to be very proficient in close quarter battle drills. I could teach, a 10-year-old to do all that. I don't expect a 10-year-old to run inside a building with people shooting. I could train these cops to do all this stuff. But you need to have the heart, and you need to have the will, and you need to have the balls to go in these buildings. And if you don't have that, forget about it. It's just not going to happen. And my thing is, all these years later, I believe something's going to happen. There's going to be an incident, an event. Everybody's got cameras now. The cops are telling me that are working in the suburbs now. They left the city because, again, you got to get out of the city. So they've gone to the suburbs. They tell me, John, that happened to me. This has happened to me, and I've heard it countless times. I believe eventually somebody's going to catch this on camera, and they're going to see that these cops are standing there in full kit, all these weapons, helmets, all this stuff, and not going into buildings. I believe you're going to catch it eventually. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. They'll go in for kids, but they're just not going to go in they're just not going to go in. You're going to have 1, 2 cops out of 10 that are going to go in the building, period. They're just not going to do it. Like they told me, it's just, hey, if I wanted to do that, I would have went to the city. So they don't pay me to do that. That's why we have a special weapons and tactics team. They get paid, hazard pay to do that. They have special weapons, special training. I'm not going to do that. this is the attitude of these people. It's ridiculous. But so I'm getting in trouble. So I type up a report. As I'm typing a report and telling the lieutenant about this, I tell him, look, I need to go down and we need to get Jessica Carmona from the hospital. We need to bring her back here to headquarters. She should have came to headquarters with me. I mean, I don't know why she's at the hospital for a scratch on her leg, a little scratch on her leg. She needs to have her butt right back to our headquarters, and she needs to be questioned, and she needs to be processed. She's part of this crime scene. She's part of this job, and you know, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion was a set up ruse robbery. So I want her brought back to headquarters. So I tell the lieutenant, look, I'm going to go down and get her. You know, because it's ridiculous. I'm going to go get her. I'm going to do my report. I'm going down to get her. He says, no, John, I'll take care of it. I'll send somebody down. I'll pick her up. I'll bring her back. I'll make sure that she's processed and everything will get done. So, okay, all right, fine. So he says he's going to do it. So I get done my report. I'm waiting around. Hours are going by. Now it's early in the morning. You know, of course, I've been working all night. So, you know, I want to get interviewed so I can go. So, Sergeant or Lieutenant Springfield comes to me and tells me, hey, John, just go home. So I said, look, they didn't interview me. He goes, don't worry about it, just go home. So when I was talking to Lieutenant Springfield, and we were going through that whole thing initially, right after I had the argument with Sergeant Bacala, the county detectives came in, and Detective McDonough had come up to me and Lieutenant Springfield, and he told me, look, John, you were first on scene. I want you to come downstairs when you've done your report. So when you get done, just come down and talk to me. So he had told me that earlier. So I asked Lieutenant Springfield, I said, look, I'm supposed to talk to the county detectives about this. He says, yeah, they'll talk to you a little bit later. You got a lot of things going on. You should just come home. So I leave. So I got home, and then I come back to work. And when I come back to work, whenever it was, I come back to work and I go downstairs and I go into detectives, and I ask the detectives, hey, look, the county needed to interview me. You know, nobody's interviewed me. What are you going to do? And they're like, we'll get to you. They'll get to you, whatever. So again, I hear this over and over again. I keep going in there and I keep hearing the same thing. They'll get to me. So we're on day shift. It's, I don't know, what is it, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is later, and we're on day shift. And it was some time after, because they had, I believe, one preliminary hearing that we canceled. And they had several preliminaries for this case that we canceled. And my squad is basically joking around about me getting in trouble and being taken off the case, removed from the case, because, you know, I told that officer to stay outside and all that nonsense. And so they're laughing. They think it's a joke. So again, I'm in trouble. I can go to detectives. I remember that particular day. I went downstairs and I asked the detectives. I haven't been interviewed, and they tell me they'll get to me. So that's all I ever hear, and I never get interviewed. So whatever. So that's that. So I'm going to go in on this video. I'm going to go in the second one. I'm going to go in more into the mode of testimonials. I'm going to give you a testimony, what these people say in court, and all the statements that they have. And I'm going to go and give you what Jessica, the star witness, says. You know, the victim. You know, whatever hero, whatever they want to call her. I'm going to give you all the statements that she gives and all the things that she talks about. And as her statements start to change, I'm going to read it through, and I'm going to tell you and show you exactly what she says verbatim. I'm going to read it. So, and I'm going to go into a little bit more of the backstory about what's really going on here, because as I said in the first video, there was things going on that I had no idea about. I knew about the players, and I knew about the victim, and I knew about things that were going on, and I talked about that. And I'll go into what I was saying, you know, the things that I was saying on scene, and the things that I was saying back at headquarters the night of the incident and that next morning, that are pivotal as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion. Again, this is my opinion in this case. What's going on here? And I'm going to go into, you know, the officers involved with this case and the things that are going on that you're going to see are pretty surprising. Here's the motive. This is the first thing I'm going to talk about, which is the motive. All right. 48 hours after the murders, District Attorney Diane Gibbons, who is she's the DA for Bucks County, she makes a public statement to the media, and she says, and I quote, "You have a bunch of drug addicts and drug dealers dickering over whether cocaine was properly paid for. They certainly believed that Diaz owed them money and that she ripped them off, and that she was going to pay the price." And that's DA Gibbons. She's making a statement off of the information from Warminster Police that are being given to her. October 18th, 2007, Philadelphia Inquirer. There's a news story. And in the story, the headline reads, "Police Warminster slangs over drug money. Dave Zellis, the first assistant DA, states, and I quote, "It was clear that these individuals were executed due to a perceived drug debt." Also, there is a wanted poster that goes out and is distributed by the investigators, and it reads, "Lisa Diaz and Mendez Thomas were killed in October of 2007 during what investigators believe was an argument over drugs." Now you got to remember, go back to what the statement was initially, what Jessica Carmona told me on scene. She said that they were arguing over money. Steve and Lisa were arguing over money. That's what she said to me. All right? So now you have this whole drug debt motive thing, right? I'm going to read now the opening statement from the DA in the 2008 trial. This is going to be his statement from the transcripts. All right, let's jump into this. You're going to hear that she goes in there to babysit these two. And while she's there, there's 3 people on the outside of that apartment. 3 people throughout Bucks County, going in and out of Bucks County and going down to Philadelphia, coming to the apartment. Those 3 people have a plan. You're going to hear that they have a plan to commit a burglary. Not a burglary by break-in, not that kind of burglary, not a normal burglary that you would think of, but a burglary to gain access by trickery. Gain access into that apartment so that one of those people, Steve Miranda, can beat up Mendez Thomas. That is the plan. Let's get in there. You have a problem with that guy Mendez. Let's teach him a lesson. That is the plan. Steve Miranda has the in. He's the key. You're going to hear that he's the key of getting in. He has an in because he knows Mendez Thomas and he knows Lisa Diaz, who is in that apartment babysitting. Alfonso Sanchez, you're going to go there. Alfonso Sanchez, right here, and he points to him in the courtroom. You're going to go there and beat him up. Basically, show me you're a man. Show me what you're made of. You're going to hear that these 2 individuals, with another individual, Alex Martinez, that you will hear from in this case, go to that apartment. They get in there through trickery, ordering drugs, go in there saying hi to Lisa, and Alfonso Sanchez walks in. You're going to hear when they get in there, Steve Miranda goes to the door and he's welcomed. And she sees Alexander Martinez, who Lisa Diaz knows, and she smiles as he walks in. Then you're going to hear that she sees Alfonso Sanchez, and she's quiet and withdrawn. You're going to hear that shortly after they arrive, Mendez Thomas and Jessica Carmona come back to the home. They come back home for their 2 kids who are being babysat by Lisa Diaz. She sees her sister sitting on the couch. She sees her 2 kids. One's asleep, one is running around. The 2-year-old is running around. And she sees these 3 people in her apartment who she recognizes. She knows all 3 of them. She knows Steve Miranda because she had a relationship with her sister. She knows Alexander Martinez. She knows Alfonso Sanchez from growing up with him. She sees they're in there for this plan to assault Mendez. However, for whatever reason, you're going to hear Steve Miranda chickens out. He withdraws. That's not good enough. You're going to hear for Alfonso Sanchez, he pushes or bumps Mendez Thomas, and some words are exchanged. You're going to hear that Mendez Thomas retreats to the back bedroom, probably something similar to this area, goes down the hallway, and you're going to hear that this man, Alfonso Sanchez, follows him down the hallway and gets within inches of him and pulls out a gun. And from his waistband, and from within point-blank range, within inches, fires 1 shot right through his head. You're going to hear that at this point Mendez Thomas goes down. He is dead. That bullet went right through his brain. You're going to hear that from the pathologist. You're going to hear and explain all of that to you. You're going to hear that Alexander Martinez and Steve Miranda, when they see this, they take off. They are out of the apartment, but Alfonso Sanchez stays there. He comes back down the hall. He turns to Lisa Diaz, who is sitting on the couch. He fires one shot through her. It goes through her shoulder. Then he fires another shot. Then he gets up close and fires another shot. And then one goes through her head. It doesn't stop there. While one child is asleep on the couch, and while another child is running around, or has been running around, he turns to Jessica Carmona, the mother of those two children. Jessica has now seen her boyfriend get shot. Jessica has now seen her sister get shot by Alfonso. And she does, you're going to hear, and incredibly, it continues from that point. What I heard in that particular opening statement, and what, as you go through the transcripts, if you read the transcripts, and I'll go through a lot of the testimony now of what's being said and what they talk about. Prosecutor clearly said what I said, which was that it was a point-blank range shot. Point-blank range. And you're going to see where I'm going to go through where the fire cartridge casing, which is the FCC, is right next to the leg of the victim, Mendez Thomas. And the smoke that I talked about, the shot was taken here. When I get into their testimony, which I'll do that soon, you're going to hear where they're going to say the shot was taken out here, at the beginning of the hallway and at the end of the table. The hallway is 14 and a half feet. His body is all the way at the end of the hallway. So the prosecutor is saying that the shot was taken, as I said, point blank range, close contact wound to the face. So that's the motive. What I don't hear in this case is anything about an issue with Alfonso Sanchez and Lisa Diaz and cocaine not being properly paid for. I don't hear any of that. What I hear is what you just heard. That's the opening statement about this burglary by way of trickery in order for them to have a fight, Steve and Mendez. That's what I hear. I don't hear anything about this drug stuff and this drug motive. Things start to change. And in this whole case, you'll hear and you'll see when I go through these, the statements continually change. Meaning Alex Martinez and Jessica Carmona. Now, this is an exchange. It's very interesting. This is during the trial. This is an exchange between the judge, and this is an exchange between the defense attorneys and the prosecutor. And it's about the motive. This is one of the defense attorneys. He has a question. Mr. Goodwin. The question I have here is, how is it relevant Miranda is selling cocaine for anybody in the context of this case? That's what he says. And the judge says, isn't that part of the motive here? And Mr. McMahon says no. And Mr. Goodman says no. And Mr. Gambardella, who is the prosecutor, says yes. Mr. McMahon now states, this is what he says. He says, Mr. McMahon, motive, as I see it, they were trying to, not real clear, this is that the fellow Martinez said at the preliminary hearing, he says that Miranda and this guy had some sort of a problem. Not real sure where my client took them over there to settle it. It was a fight. And that they were going to have this fist fight, and the guy chickens out. That's what Mr. McMahon says. Now, the court says, all right, Mr. Gambardella, and the judge says, you have the last word. This is the prosecutor. To clear this up, a week before Miranda says, I'm selling drugs, supposed to pay off a debt, and the day Sanchez is on the phone with some guy named Ralph, I didn't get the $2,000. I am going to take care of it another way. And the judge says, meaning who? He didn't give me $2,000? So that's just an exchange. That's an excerpt of an exchange between, obviously, the prosecutor, the defense attorneys, and the judge. And it's clear that they're not really sure what's going on with the motive, as far as my opinion, right? Mr. Gambardella, the prosecutor's mentioning a guy named Ralph. Who the heck is Ralph? So, like, who's Ralph? as I just said, you heard the opening statement from the prosecutor in the beginning of the trial, which set the motive for this case. And it was a burglary by way of trickery in order to have a fight between Steve Miranda and Mendez Thomas. There's nothing about drugs, none of that. They're starting to get away from the whole drug thing because it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. Alfonso Sanchez and this whole thing about drugs and money and Lisa Diaz, as far as in my opinion, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the case, and it's starting to be pushed out. And this new motive is coming up. So, all right. So let's go into a trial summary. I want to go into a trial summary. I want to read a trial summary to you. It's very important because I just want to get this trial summary in. It's a summary of the whole case, and I'm going to read it to you. This is my summary of the whole entire case. It gives you a whole overview of what really is going on here. All right, so this is a 2007 summary of the version of the events. As testified to from Jessica Carmona and Alex Martinez, Steve calls Mendez in order to acquire illegal narcotics. That's the lead. Steve and Mendez finalize the deal, and before hanging up, another person picks up Steve's cell phone and pretends to be Steve, asking for more drugs. It's important. This will be important later. Jessica immediately identifies the person pretending to be Steve is really Alfonso Sanchez. Jessica takes Mendez's cell phone and confronts the person on the phone. Alex, Steve, and Alfonso go to Mendez's apartment, H13. Steve knocks on the door, and Alex states Alfonso stands off to the side of the apartment door, attempting to hide himself from the occupant's view. Lisa answers the door and lets all three inside the apartment. Alex says Lisa, upon seeing Alfonso, appears frightened, as though she has saw the devil. Moments later, Mendez and Jessica return to the apartment, and Jessica says when she saw Lisa, her face was white, and she looked terrified of Alfonso. Steve and Alex were at the kitchen table with Mendez. Lisa and Jessica were at the sofa, and Alfonso was standing against the wall at the front door. Suddenly, Mendez backs away from the table and comes in contact with Alfonso, accidentally stepping on his foot. Alfonso and Mendez come face to face, and Lisa and Jessica come off the couch and get between them, and between the two of them. Steve hands his CD player to Alex. Alex shakes his head no, and Steve gestures not to fight. Alex says Steve then puts his hands on his head, on the top of his head, wobbles back and forth. Alfonso pushes Mendez towards Steve, and Mendez turns and slowly walks down the hallway towards the bedrooms. Jessica says Alfonso takes a few steps forward and pulls a gun from his waistband. Alfonso fires the gun one time next to the kitchen table at Mendez. That's out here. Jessica says, takes a few steps forward. All right. Alfonso then turns and shoots several times at Lisa. So he's here, and he turns and shoots at Lisa, who's over here near the couch. It's very important to see this setup. Jessica says Steve and Alex flee the apartment together. Another important statement here. Lisa says she grabs her child and falls to the floor, covering him. Alfonso, while leaving the apartment, fires a shot at Jessica, hitting her in her right leg. Jessica says her sister Lisa is lying on the floor in the living room, not moving. And I'm going to go into the whole entire thing of Jessica not being shot. That was exaggerated. She's not shot. In my opinion, she's not shot. She's got a minor little nick to her knee, her right knee. And I'll go into the whole thing about what the doctors testified to about the whole injury. I'll do that a little bit later. And in my opinion, she's not shot. It's just way wrong. She's a hero, but remember, you got to make her a hero. So that's the overview of this case. And it's important, some of the things that I said, because there's contradictions. There's big contradictions on that statement about the overview. There's things that just consistently change throughout this whole case. As soon as they're challenged by Mr. McMahon, they changed their stories on the stand. All right, let's get into Jessica. And her statements and what she says, because she's pivotal here. She is the star witness of this case. Alex is Alex. Alex, he said on the stand that he would lie for his brother, Steve. And he's got criminal history, the whole works. All he does, I'll go through his statements and how they change constantly, and the plea deals, all the deals they got going on here. Jessica's their star witness. It's very important to hear her statements and how they change, how they start to change. Because I'll show you. Her first statement was to me in the first video. That's the first statement on scene. Her excitable utterances right on scene minutes after I get there. This is 10, 12 hours later. This is the statement that they use in the affidavit of probable cause, which I'm mentioned twice. I am mentioned in the affidavit of probable cause twice. My name shows in the affidavit of probable cause, not once, but twice. But they try to act like I wasn't even there. Meaning, there was actual talk that I wasn't even there. That went away real quick because the radio tapes and everything when I asked for, whatever. So, all right, here you go. So, Jessica Carmona, this is the second statement that she makes. Second statement. First on scene, this one 10 or 12 hours later. Was interviewed by Morriston Township Detective Bonaquisti and Patrolman Verderami. She relayed the following. Her sister Lisa Diaz was watching her children in the apartment H13. Jessica stated that she and Mendez Thomas resided at the apartment H13 with their 2 children. Jessica Carmona and Mendez Thomas went across the hall to a friend's apartment and were there between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. While there at their neighbor's apartment, Mendez Thomas received numerous calls on his Nextel Direct Connect cell phone from Steve Miranda inquiring as to Mendez Thomas's whereabouts. Jessica Carmona related that the last Direct Connect call to Mendez Thomas was received by Steve Miranda at 11:51. Remember 11:51? It's up on the board. That goes to the timeline. October 16, 2007. Soon thereafter, Jessica Carmona and Mendez Thomas arrived back at the apartment H13. When they arrived at the apartment at H13, Steve Miranda, Alex Martinez, and Alfonso Sanchez are in the apartment, standing in the living room. Jessica Carmona states that Steve Miranda had been at her apartment on prior occasions. However, Alfonso Sanchez had never been there previously, which is important. It comes up later. She was never in the apartment. To the best of her knowledge, Alfonso Sanchez did not know where she lived. Lisa Diaz and Jessica Carmona's 2 young children, and they give their initials, were also present in the living room at the time. Mendez Thomas and Jessica Carmona entered the apartment. Alfonso Sanchez became immediately confrontational with Mendez Thomas. Jessica Carmona and Lisa Diaz then tried to intervene with an argument. Remember, it's right to argument. Mendez Thomas turned and started to walk down the hallway to the rear bedroom. Alfonso Sanchez then drew a semi-automatic pistol from his waistband, took several steps into the hallway. Alfonso Sanchez pointed the gun and shot Mendez Thomas. Alfonso Sanchez then turned to Lisa Diaz and pointed the gun and fired multiple times. Jessica Carmona then grabbed her children and took him to the floor and shielded him on the floor with her own body. She heard another shot. At that time, she was struck in her leg. Jessica Carmona then heard all 3 subjects flee the apartment. She immediately telephones 911 at 11:54, and that didn't happen. She didn't call immediately. The first caller was the neighbor. That was the first caller. She calls when I'm up here. She's the second caller, or she's after the first caller. She didn't call immediately. I'll go into where she goes, what she does, what she's looking for, her gun, all that. I'll go back into all that. But it's important to understand her first statement that I told you in the first video. You got to watch the first video. Now she's starting to get into something totally different. 10 to 12 hours later. Remember, she was supposed to come back to headquarters. She was never to go to that hospital. She's a prime suspect. She needs to be processed. She's never processed. Now she's starting to get her story straight. Now she's changing it. Now she says that Alfonso Sanchez takes a couple steps, a few steps into the hallway and fires. And she sees this. She's saying that she sees him step into the hallway and fire down, hitting Mendez Thomas. And then he turns and then he shoots Lisa Diaz. Right? That's what she's saying. This is going to be her statement in trial. She has to change that. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit. So now she has to change it because she has to see the gun come out. It's very important that you realize she has to see the gun come out. She has to see him shoot Mendez Thomas. Then she has to see him, meaning Alfonso Sanchez, the person she's putting the case on, putting the shooter on. She now has to see him shoot her sister. So she has to see it with her own eyes, just like Alex. So she's up here. She's already said where she's at. She already testifies, and I'll show you. She testifies she's up here. So she can't see down the hallway. Detective Boston, who is crime scene detective, actually testifies later in court about her and her placement and can she see down the hallway, and he states no. I'll get to that. So she's already locked herself into where she's at. So now she has him going into the hallway. Well, of course she can't see through walls, or maybe, I don't know, she can see through walls. She can't see him, so she has to change the story. So this is where she changed the story. That doesn't work. That's the second statement, right, of her and what she just said, right? I'm stepping into the hallway. And we know where the shot was taken, all the way down here. Now she has to change it. All right. This is 2008 trial. Now she's got to come up with something a little bit better now. Remember, she's got to see the gun come out. She's got to see him pull the trigger. That's what her story is. That's what's part of it. She's up at the couch. She's up at the love seat up here with her sister. All right, so let's just jump right into this. How did she react when she was shot? She fell. All right. Let's get. Wait a minute. I got to make sure I get on here. Just the right statements here. All right. I got to go back a little bit. That's at the end. All right. When he walked back towards the room in the hallway, what occurred at that point, ma'am? Alfonso took a couple steps forward, and I'd seen him draw the gun from his waist. Tell the jury exactly what you recall. You said he took a couple steps forward. Her answer is yes. And you mentioned a gun. Prior to that point, have you seen a gun? Her answer is not until he pulled it out. Question, where did he pull it out from? Answer, from his waist. Do you recall how he pulled it out? He just pulled it out like this, and she shows it. And you're showing your arm going up, and she answers going up. When he pulled out the gun from his waist, and you said, who did that? Who are you saying did that? Her answer is Alfonso. When you say Alfonso Sanchez pulled out the gun from his waist, what occurred next? That's when he pulled the trigger. Did he step anywhere? Did he step what? And he said, the question is, did Sanchez step anywhere? And, okay. Now you said the pushing incident occurred. Mendez went down the hallway, correct? Her answer is yes. When he went down the hallway, what, if anything, did Alfonso Sanchez do? He stepped towards the table, more closer towards the hallway. Then what happens? Answer. Then he pulled the gun from his waist. Then what happened? Then he shot Mendez. Where was it in relationship to where Mendez was? Where was it? You said Mendez was in the hallway. And where was Alfonso Sanchez at the time that the gun was fired? And her answer, standing at the end of the table. Now she's back at the table. Question. The end of the table, where is that in relationship to the rest of the apartment? Answer. The other side, the right-hand side. Is that more towards the doorway when you get in, or more towards the hallway? They got to get her closer to the hallway. Her answer, more towards the hallway. Okay. And you saw that. Did you see that? Her answer, yes, I saw that. So, question. Can you tell the jury how he held the gun when it happened? And she indicated, it says answer, and she's indicating how he held it. And you're holding your arm straight out. And she answers yes. What did you see specifically? Answer. What I've seen him pull the trigger. Question. How many gunshots did you hear when he was, you said, holding his arm up? Answer. I heard one. Question. You said he was holding his arm up in relation to where Mendez was? What direction he was holding his arm up? Towards Mendez? Away from Mendez? Her answer is towards Mendez. Question. Now, after you heard that one shot and you saw his arm up, what occurred next, ma'am? Her answer. Then he turned to his left and shot Lisa. Where was Lisa at that time? Answer. Standing up by the couch. Question. Standing by the couch? Answer. Yes. Question. The large couch or the love seat? Answer. The large couch. Question. Your daughter. Where was she at the time? Answer. Sleeping on the love couch. Love seat, love couch. Question. How far was your daughter away from Lisa? Answer. Feet. So, now you got three stories now. You got first story, which is initial scene, her excitable utterance. To me, on scene, gives me the statement. I write it down. I put the flash in. Now, you had the statement that I read prior to this, which was 10 to 12 hours later, to Bonaquisti and Officer Verderani. She has him going kind of into the hallways, takes a few steps to the hallway. That's not going to work. So now she's got to change it. So now she testifies in the 2008 trial, and it's just what you heard. Now, he's taking a shot at a table out here somewhere. Now again, I wasn't privy to the crime scene photos, so I never got a chance to see the photos. But there's a table in here. Somewhere in here is a table. This is the beginning of the hallway. There's a table. Alex states that the shot was taken at the beginning of the hallway. As you just heard, her third story, Jessica has the shot being taken at the end of the table in the living room kitchen area. Takes the shot, she sees it, got to see the gun come out, got to see the trigger pull. Sees him shoot Mendez, as she says, immediately turns and shoots Lisa, who's standing near the couch. So, again, quick summary. You know from the prosecutor, it's not just my word, prosecutor's word, the shot's taken down here. Point blank range, as he said, point blank within inches of his head. I said the same thing. Now you got star witness, Jessica, putting the shot out here. She has three stories now. She has to see the gun come out, has to see the trigger pull. That puts the gun in Alfonso Sanchez's hand. She has to be the star witness, along with Alex, to say that he took the shot. Clearly we know the shot wasn't taken out here. Clearly I know that he's not the shooter, Steve's the shooter. And I'll go into the whole thing about everything else that's going on here. But now you got three stories. So I can't wait to see what her fourth story is. I don't think we're ever going to get to that point, but I'd love to see, and I really, really want to see what her fourth story is going to be, because now she's locked in. She's locked into having him out here, her over here, seeing him pull the gun out, take the shot. Now we know it's locked in because the prosecutor said the shot was taken down here. So now she's got to somehow put him down here, and she's got to somehow have herself seeing him take the shot down there. So it's going to be real interesting to see what her next story is going to be. And Alex as well, which I don't really care about Alex because he's just lying all over the place, but she's lying too. But it's going to be interesting because she's the hero. She's the one that got shot. I'll go into all that. But she's got three stories already. All right, let's go into. I want to hit Alex's testimony real quick on the shot. Might as well. I got it right here. All right. So this is Alex's exchange with the Commonwealth. Question. All right. And before Mr. McMahon sits down again, where was Alfonso Sanchez standing approximately when you saw him shoot the firearm? Answer. This is Alex. Standing right here, sir. Question. Okay. Right at the beginning of the hallway? Answer. Yes. Right at the beginning of the hallway. Again, we know the shot wasn't taken here. We know the shot's taken here because the prosecutor says the shot's taken here. It's just not me saying it. He's saying it. So he's not even on the same page as his star witnesses. Let's go into the 3 steps. Now again, this is important here because you got 3 steps. You got 3 steps going on at the table, and then like the initial, their testimony, I'm going to go through it. They have Steve and Alex at the table. These guys come back in, they're at the table. They have perfect position. They have prime locations. He's coming to them now. Mendez is unarmed and he's hiding. He comes to them. He's at the table. There's supposed to be some type of drug transaction for weed. He takes 3 steps back and then he takes off down the hallway, meaning Mendez Thomas. This is the statements that they talk about, the star witnesses, on him taking his 3 steps back and taking off. Alfonso Sanchez testifies to the same thing about Mendez Thomas stepping back and taking off down the hallway, running down the hallway. So all 3 people are saying the same thing. Why? Because we already know why. Because in their initial statement, Steve lifts his shirt, pulls a gun at the table. So Mendez Thomas backs up and takes off. All right. These are some of the testimonial exchanges to Mendez Thomas and his 3 steps away from the table. All right, this is Sanchez's defense counsel, and this is Alexander Martinez. Question. And why would Mendez take a few steps back from the table? Answer. I'm not sure, sir. Question. So if I am correct, if there's the table and he's at the table making a marijuana deal, right? Answer. That's correct. Question. Money, the deal. And what are you telling us is that he just starts backing away like this? Answer. That's correct. Question. For no reason at all? He just steps back? Answer. That's correct. Question. He's backing away from who? Answer. From Stephen. Question. He's backing away from Stephen as if he was afraid of Stephen, right? Answer. No, sir. All right, here is further questioning. Question. And you shook your head no and said he did nothing. What occurred next? Answer. I remember Mendez taking a few steps back. Alfonso took a few steps forward, shoving Mendez towards Stephen. Question. Okay. And did Alfonso say anything to anybody when he did the shove? Answer. He told Mendez to watch where he was walking. Question. Okay. And how did Mendez react? Answer. He turned around and Mendez and Alfonso were face to face. Question. Okay. And as this is happening, sir, you said there were 2 women. Lisa was on the couch and Jessica was in the kitchen. What did they do? Answer. Jessica came from the kitchen and Lisa came and ran off the couch. Ran from the couch. This is this whole thing that I'm going to get into. Also, you got the testimony for the 3 steps, but you also got this whole interaction back here. And I'm going to get into why they have this whole pushing thing. Because I'll show you where you have to have something, because as I said, when I went in and I saw the victim, Lisa Diaz, and assumed nothing, investigate, process everything, goes homicide, went it out, processed it out. I thought she was in some type of an altercation or fight. I had said that, and I'm going to have that soon. This tape or next, of what Detective Boston, a crime scene person, talks about. He talks about this altercation, this fight. He testifies to it. He brings it up. Remember, I'm not involved in the case at all. He testifies to it about receiving information that's being relayed to him. All right, I'll go into the whole thing. There's this whole pushing thing that starts after May 22nd. All right, so I'll go into that. But that is the 3 steps backwards from the table. Because again, like I said, you have to explain why he takes off down the hall, because they're all testifying, all 3 of them are testifying to the same thing, and taking 3 steps away from the table and then going down the hallway. But I'm going to go into Jessica Carmona has him walking down the hallway, and as I said, she says he slowly walked down the hallway like he's just strolling down the hallway. Why? Because she has to act like he didn't. There was no gun. He just walked down the hallway. I don't know. It's just, you'll see where there's just a lot of things that go on here, and constantly they keep changing the story. All right. This is the trickery. Now remember, this is burglary by way of trickery. All right. So that's the opening statement. I believe the motive, burglary by way of trickery in order to have a fight. All right. So here we go. All right. So this is testimony exchange between Alex, change to entering the apartment. Question. Okay. Now when you get to the house, you go to the front door and you knock on the door, right? Answer. Steve does, sir. Question. This is Steve who had a problem with the 2 people in there. Steven who had to go there to solve some sort of a problem with Mr. Mendez. Thomas, right? Answer correct. Question. Okay, and Lisa opens the door, right? Answer correct. Question. Lisa lets all 3 of you in, right? Answer correct. Question. There is no trickery to get in there, was there? Answer. No, sir. You didn't use any kind of false planning or anything to get in there, did you? Answer. No, sir. There you go. So, he's testifying to this whole thing about this trickery, burglary by trickery. Well, he just says that didn't happen. And you'll hear that where Mr. McMahon, every time they call him on something, they change it. They start changing their stories. All right. So, all right. So let's get into. This is about your plea deals. I'm going to go into the plea deals here. There's several plea deals. On May 22nd, 2008, there's plea deals that are made. It's May 22nd, 2008. All 3 people get deals. Even Steve Miranda, he even gets a deal. He agrees not to separate these cases, and he goes from capital murder case, first degree murder, down to second degree murder. So he gets a deal too. They all get deals. Alex Martinez gets a deal as well. I'm going to get into that. He gets a deal, and he goes down to just burglary. And if he testifies in court, he gets to just walk out. He gets out. And then Mr. McMahon asks him that, and he says yes, and I'll go through that. Jessica Carmona also gets a deal. She also has a prior case. She's got a case, open case. She also gets a deal too. She also makes a deal after May 22nd, and they start to get their story straight. Now they start going with this whole push and stuff, and you'll see where all these little things start to come into play. After May 22nd, they start changing their stories, and they start getting these deals. So the only person who doesn't get a deal is Alfonso Sanchez. He goes to death row. He don't get no deals. All right, so there you go. This is the plea deals. Defense attorney's testimonial exchange with Alex about his plea deal. Question. But that was the purpose of you getting your plea. Is that right? Answer. Correct. So when you weren't going to get a plea, you didn't talk about any fight. Answer. No, sir. Question. But when you were going to get a plea, you talked about a fight to go on in there, correct? Answer. Correct. Okay. Question is okay. And you know, sir, you know that you had to say that you had to say that they were going in there to commit something. Otherwise, there would be no burglary against Mr. Miranda and Mr. Sanchez, and your plea would be out the window. Answer correct. So now you have these plea deals that are going on. Now again, after the plea, Alexander Martinez also adds a bunch of stuff. He adds the pushing. He also adds this 50 Cent song, "You're Gonna Die Tonight." He adds that. He throws that in there too. Why not? So up the ante a little bit. So he puts that in there too. This is a testimonial exchange between Jessica and Mr. McMahon about this pushing altercation. Question. Okay. In this statement that you signed, there is also no mention of that whatsoever. Is that correct? Answer. In that statement, what you read? No. Question. Was it after May 22nd of 2008, after Mr. Martinez pled guilty and gave a statement about what happened? What had happened? Was it after that this pushing into Steve Miranda came about? Is that the first time you told anybody after Mr. Martinez said that's what happened? Or answer, I wasn't even there when he said that. Question. So it's just a coincidence that you were testifying after May 22nd and you're adding this when you never said it anywhere else. It's just a coincidence that happens to say that also, that you say that also. Is that what you're telling us? He says yes. Question. As Mendez tried to walk by Alfonso, Mendez accidentally stepped on Alfonso's foot. Alfonso became upset and asked if Mendez was trying to start something. An argument ensued between the two of them. I got between the two of them. Lisa got off the couch and placed herself between the two of them and said something like, "This is not going to happen here." Mendez then began to walk down the hallway towards the room. That's what you signed, right? Answer, yes. Question. There's absolutely, just like the preliminary hearing, there's absolutely no mention of this pushing by Alfonso of Mendez Thomas towards Mr. Miranda, is there? If you want to look at it, you can look at it. But I just read it to you. Her answer. I know you just read it to me, but I know I wrote it. Clearly, she didn't write it. So, Mr. McMahon is starting to call her out on her stuff, on her nonsense. So he's calling her out, just like he's calling out Alex. After May 22nd, things start to change. Because again, you have to have this stuff fit. It ain't going to fit when you start saying this. And I'm going to go through down the road where they start changing stuff. About the gun. I'm going to explain to you all about the gun. My opinion. Later, I'm going to tell you about the gun, her gun, Mendez Thomas's gun, where he goes back to get the gun. I'm going to go into the whole thing about, I believe, my opinion, she hid the gun. She hides the gun up in a closet. I'll go into the whole thing about that and my opinion on that, and I will show you why I believe that. All right. Question. The testimonial exchange between Alex Martinez about the pushing to start this fight. Question. But that was the purpose of you getting your plea. Is that right? Answer, correct. So when you weren't getting the plea, you didn't talk about a fight, right? Answer, no, sir. But when you were going to get a plea, you talked about a fight going on in there, correct? Answer, correct. All right, so he's just going back over what was talked about then. All right, so here we go. This is a question. Was there a problem between Mendez and Alfonso? Is the question. Answer. When we walked into the apartment, they exchanged a few words, and it escalated into an argument. That was your answer. Do you remember giving that answer? And Jessica says, yes. So again, there we go. Question. After the argument or exchange of words, the question on line 19 is, and did they separate? Your answer, yes. Lisa was in between the argument and was saying to stop arguing. Question.
and that was when the gun was pulled out? Answer, no. Question, what happened next? What occurred after that? Answer, after the argument, that's when Mendez turned around and he was walking back towards the bedroom, and Lisa turned around to walk back towards the couch. Is that what you testified to? Answer, Jessica, yes.
She testifies at the preliminary hearing. And when she testifies at the preliminary hearing, she only talks about an argument. She only mentions an argument in her first couple statements. Then she gets into this whole thing about a pushing. You've got to have something. You can't have detectives talking about, crime scene detectives talking about an altercation or a fight, which I'm going to go into what I'm relaying to them. And then you have somebody like detectives coming in talking about that, and then you have no reason, you have no backup for that. Because again, I'm going to get into the DNA that's lost for 8 years. There's DNA evidence lost. You have to have something. They have to come up with something. So pushing starts to come into play May 22nd. This case has got all kinds of stuff, and it's very, very perturbing, the whole thing. Because, as you'll see, and I'm going to go into it, I believe I was taken off this case immediately for a reason, and I'm going to tell you about the backstory. But even in the preliminary hearing, when Sanchez had a preliminary hearing for a capital murder case, preliminary hearing at district court, he didn't even have an attorney present. Jack McMahon had a trial, and they went on with the preliminary hearing, and he had no representation. And it got so bad that in the transcripts, the two attorneys for the two co-defendants, Miranda and Martinez, in the first hearing, they actually tell the judge that, hey, they've done these cases, capital murder cases, they've never had a client or had anybody sit there not represented during a capital murder case. And what they do is, after they say that, now they start to talk to Alfonso Sanchez, who has no attorney present, and they counsel him. And then, after counseling him, the next hearing, they turn around and testify against him. I mean, this is how crazy this thing gets. You're in a capital murder case with no attorney. I mean, they don't even do that in China. I bet you they got somebody sitting next to them. I mean, it's unreal. So, all right, this is about the trickery. All right, we got the trickery. Let me go through and let's do fleeing together. Fleeing together is good. This is good. All right, this is testimony exchange with defense attorney and Alex. All right, so this is let's start with well, I got it in front of me. It's Alex, and we have Jessica's testimony on the fleeing together. All right, so we have a question. When did Alex Martinez run out of the apartment? Answer, when he shot Mendez. Question, do you know where Steve Miranda was when you were shot? Answer, he also ran out. Question, when did he run out? Answer, same time Alex ran out. Question, both ran out when Mendez was shot? Answer, yes. So ma'am, just so we're clear, were either of them there when Lisa was shot? Answer, no. All right, so this is the exchange between Alex and the Commonwealth. And you'll see where they forgot to tell Alex that he ran out with Steve. Question, now, when he was shot, when Mendez was shot, where was, if you know, if you saw it, where is Lisa Diaz? Answer, I don't remember, because I left at that time, I ran. Question, when Mendez was shot? Answer, yes. Question, okay, as soon as you saw him shot, you ran? Answer, yes. Question, did you see Steve Miranda outside the building? Answer, no sir. Question, when you exited? Answer, no. Question, you did not? And how quickly was it, Mr. Martinez? I know this sometimes, these are difficult questions, but how quickly was it between the time when you saw him shot and the time you got outside? Answer, I'd say about a few seconds. They clearly didn't flee together. They didn't run out together. And he's telling you, he didn't even see Steve when he ran out the door. What happens is after the shooting, after this takes place and the first shot's taken, Alfonso testifies that he opens the door and he runs out. And Steve is here doing the shootings. Alex runs out. So you have Alfonso and you have Alex that run out of the building. They run out of the building. They run behind the buildings and they go to the apartment complex that's below here. There's another apartment complex below this one. And they go to an apartment and they get Alfonso's girlfriend to go retrieve his car that's parked up here, next to the park. And Alfonso's girlfriend brings the car back to them. They get in the vehicle and they drive off. They start calling. Both of them testify to this. Alfonso and Alex. They start nexteling and calling Steve, trying to find out where he's at. And they call him for hours. They nextel him, they call him for hours, he doesn't answer. He finally calls and picks up the phone. And he answers them hours later, in the early morning hours. And he tells them to come down and pick him up at 5th and Wingahocken, which is East Division, Philadelphia. They go down and pick him up. Alfonso states that they go over to his friend's house and they stay at his friend's house. They stay there. His friend wakes up, tells them they got to get out. They got to go somewhere else. They leave. Alfonso says, look, I'll go right over to another friend's house. I'll go there. We'll probably be able to crash there. They drive over. Alfonso gets out of his vehicle and walks up to the guy's door. And they drive off, meaning Steve and Alex drive off. They drive off his car, they steal his car, they take off, and they take his cell phone with him. So he doesn't have a cell phone. So they take the car with him. So, and they take off. So, and then they turn themselves in. Steve and Alex turn themselves in. Now, they turn themselves into Officer Allen at Upper Southampton Police Department. So I'm going to talk about that real briefly. Upper Southampton Police Department is right down the street from our township. This is Warminster, only a couple miles down the road. You go down Street Road, there's Upper Southampton Police Department. All right, we're going to stop there and we're going to start another video. Let me stop there and then we'll start another one. All right, go ahead, stop that. We'll start.